Hello, everyone. Welcome to I can't say the Boss Babe Business Show because we're done hosting that one this night. But tonight, the name of this video is called America's Next Flop Model. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. We're going to have a great conversation for anyone that wants to just listen to some different thoughts on this. I normally don't discuss reality TV shows, online TV shows, or things that just feel like it's about entertainment wise, because I feel like there's a lot of other things that I could be filling the space with when it comes to my voice. However, this show really did have a lot of really great pointers that I wanted to talk about tonight, three specific concepts. And then I just wanted to ask some questions, not necessarily to judge, but more so just to put the food for thought out there. And the reason being is because it relates to so many really important topics right now when it comes to our community. So what I'm going to first do is just quickly drop an ad so you can see who we are, Boss Babe Blog. And then I'm going to start the show. So give me about 30 seconds. I need to make sure we're streaming on Instagram as we get ready to have this conversation. We'll be streaming on Instagram, Facebook, and a few other platforms. So stay tuned and let's have us a good time. All right, everyone. So the name of this video is called America's Next Flop Model. Okay. And obviously it was just called that, we're just doing some wordplay, but tonight is going to be a really productive conversation. Now, do I feel like it was really a flop? I think there were some really beautiful and positive things that came from the show. And I think there were also some very not so positive things that came from the show based off of people's experiences, right? But tonight I'm here to talk about three concepts that really just stuck with me as I was preparing to, as I was getting ready to think on if I was going to talk about the show or not. A lot of times when it comes to this stuff, I don't talk about it because I just feel like everyone is so opinionated these days. And a lot of times people are not listening to actually understand. They're just listening to argue or to be argumentative. Like they don't have the intention of trying to understand you. And if you don't have the intention of trying to understand someone, I'll be surprised if you actually do understand where they're coming from, because in your mind, you were already ready for an argument, a debate, things like that. So just listening to try to understand. And so for that reason, I don't normally talk about some of these topics because it's like an endless cycle of us just discussing things that we clearly don't agree with and don't see eye to eye on. And, I'd really just rather not. But there's something that's important when it comes to America's Next Top Model that I do want to talk about because it's on my mind. And I'm about to share it with you. Let me just get this link and share it. If you know anybody else that enjoys or enjoyed watching America's Next Top Model, feel free to tag them to this live. If you know anyone that enjoyed it, but then did not like the way things played out or what's been put on TV, tag them to this live too. All opinions are welcome. We are welcome to have a conversation in the comments. Feel free to share what your thoughts are. But let me just get the link so I can share this with everybody. Everybody. Shout out to 174 subscribers. You guys are amazing. And as you're watching, feel free to let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what's your opinion and perspective on everything that's been going on with that. Obviously, we have a lot of things going on in the world right now. Okay. And that's another reason why I don't always have anything to say about TV shows or entertainment, although it does shape the minds of our youth sometimes, depending on what the show is or our society. So it is important that we do have a say in these things and we're not silent all the time. And I want to be a part of that change. So today we're going to talk about it. All right. The post is officially shared. Now let's get into it. Okay. So anybody who does not already know what America's Next Top Model is, I'm just going to briefly share it for you. But America's Next Top Model is a show that was ran by Tyra Banks, who also was a model who broke some of the barriers of the model industry. And so she decided to create a show where she would bring women on to compete to find out who was going to be America's Next Top Model, right? And during the time of this show, her mission that she stated it was about was inspiring other women that even if their beauty standards are not what the social beauty standards are, that they are still beautiful and they can still pursue being America's Next Top Model, but they can also still have a successful career in modeling and pushing past the industry. Now, I won't go too much further into that because I'm not her. So I want to speak for me, what I experienced from watching this show. But let's talk about it. There's three specific concepts. Oh, sorry, y'all. I'm not even supposed to be on live right now, but I'm on live tonight. So there's three specific concepts that I want to talk about tonight. The first thing is about timelessness. Everything is not timeless. So if you are an entrepreneur, a creator, I said entrepreneur or a creator or someone that is developing or building something, I always like to say that these are examples where we get to see that in the moment, something felt like it was a great idea to do, to say, to execute, but clearly with time, it did not age well. And there's a lot of things out there like that. So it's not to say that you're going to be able to prevent every mistake or, every wrong turn, should I say, but it's good to keep in mind when you're making decisions for your business and when you're making decisions for conversations that you're having or for your brand to ask yourself, is this something that might be timeless? What are the concept and the values behind this? And is this something that's timeless that will age well? So that was the first concept that I took from America's Next Top Model that I was like, hey, this is me seeing this in real time. Just a concept, feel free to share your opinion or thoughts on it. It's not necessarily me making a statement about the show. The next thing was accountability looks different on different people. I'm coming to that realization. Listening to everybody talk about America's Next Top Model, I'm hearing a lot of people discussing, reasons for why they left, things that did not work. But I did have some questions about it. I think that some of the things that happen to these women it's sad to hear these stories. It's sad to hear that people had negative experiences, right? But I also, and I'm not going to say but because I don't want to negate what I said. It is sad to hear that. It is also important that when these kind of things take place and people are experiencing unhealthy or negative experiences in a work environment, that we look into who all had a factor in this environment. Yes, there is someone who is in charge of running the show, right? Like any other show or any other business. There's always going to be a manager. There's always going to be somebody who's at the top. But then there are also people who are a part of that system that either look at it and report it immediately or look at it and turn a blind eye. And there's going to be people that are in the system and there's going to be people outside of the system. So although it might feel good to have a face to the name because we do like to hold people accountable and get that face to that name, it's important that we understand that there are a lot of people behind this production. It wasn't just a one person thing. And anyone who was there and an adult during the process of this was a part of this. And unless they were being, held against their will, that's a whole different story. But they're part of this. They signed up for this. They saw the things that were taking place. And we are now hearing people speak out about some of the things that were taking place down the line. Now, I'm not talking about the people who have expressed the negative experiences they've had. I'm meaning the people that were a part of the production. So I'm not saying that there's a time limit on how long you can have before you hold yourself accountable or anything like that. But I am saying that if you are a part of something and you're seeing something take place and it doesn't feel right, but you're still continuing to be a part of it, I feel almost as if it's not right to focus in on one person. We need to know everybody that was a part of this because it wasn't a one person thing. She couldn't have been everywhere at one time. And so in the times that she was not there, who was running the show? Who was making the judgment calls? Who hired this person? How long were they in place? Who all watched this and felt that uneasiness and still allowed these things to take place? Those are some of the questions that I have. But let's move past the questions and let's move to a very, very important concept tonight. And that is the power of your consumerism. After watching this show or watching the feedback that I've been receiving, that I've seen online about this show, I'm starting to feel as if people don't understand how powerful they are as consumers. People don't all understand how expensive their time and their attention is as consumers, as viewers, as anybody taking in information or taking in products. I'm feeling like that's what it is. And I think that hopefully we can get to a place where all consumers truly understand their value, because entrepreneurs are also consumers. And sometimes they happen to be on that list of consumers that don't truly understand their value. But when you understand how powerful you are as a consumer, these kind of topics and conversations, they're not going to go on for long. And we're going to be able to change the behavior and patterns in reality TV and in any platforms that we're stepping onto. Because if you don't like something that you're seeing on TV, or if you're not liking a specific culture, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to engage in it. You don't have to share it. When you watch it, You bring the views up. You tell the team that this is something worth keeping on. You tell the production team that this is a show that people want to watch. When you post about it, you put it on social media, you bring it on the internet. You're letting people know that this is something that you are actively a part of, that you want to be a part of. So when we realize how expensive our viewership is and our consumerism is, I feel like these changes in these TV shows and these platforms and these businesses are going to take place immediately. Because if you understood just how powerful you are as a consumer, then you would realize that you do have the power to, even if you can't make someone physically do something, you can at least make them consider doing something or making a change in the way that they're approaching something. And I'm not saying this that to shame anybody or saying that we should shame anybody. I'm not saying, the whole situation about, withholding or trying to treat someone like they should be judged like we're God or something. But I'm just saying, if you understood your power as a consumer and as a viewer, you'd use it differently. Like when you make a post about something, I can't tell you how many posts I've seen about Tyra with America's Next Top Model. And people are making posts about it and people are sharing their opinion and perspective. Some of them are with it, some of them are against it. But when you make a post about something, you're promoting it. Now, some things do need to be brought to the light and we do need to hold people accountable and have awareness. But there is a lot of awareness being brought to these people. If we're saying that we're not liking something, we're not showing them that we're not liking it, because the algorithms are going to consistently bring you media that aligns with that, because that's what you are showing that you like and that's what you want to talk about and that's what you're interested in. Even if you say you're not, if your actions are showing differently, the algorithm is going to bring you what they think you're interested in, which is more information and more insight on stuff like that, which prompts people to make more content like that. So I'm sure that there are going to be changes, but I just think that we have to know as consumers how powerful we are. So in the moment when you see something that you're not okay with, the best thing that you could do is turn off the TV and find a different channel. A better thing to do would be to research who is actually behind this, because it's not just one person. And there wasn't just one person who produced this entire show. It wasn't one person filming. It wasn't one person taking photos. It wasn't one person doing this. So everybody is so focused on that one face, because that is the face of accountability for the things that went wrong, right? And of course, it would make sense because she's also the person that owned a part of this show. But she is not the only person that was a part of calling big shots when it came to this show. She is not the only person who endorsed this show. She is not the only person that worked on this show and saw things that maybe they felt like, it's a little bit weird, but continued to work through it. So if we consistently say that we don't like things, but then we are still giving attention, time, energy, money, viewership to these things, we're showing them that we do. So as consumers, if we focus in on finding things that do align with our values and really holding people accountable to the kind of values that they carry with their team and with their production and with their cast, we're going to see a change in that culture. That's how we make the change. So the show started off with her trying to make a change in the modeling industry, but how we make the change when it comes to the production industry and when it comes to reality TV is by deciding that we are not going to give our viewership to things that do not align with our values until we see changes that make sense for us. So when we do that, you will see a change, because people will have no choice but to change to what it is they feel you want to see. And then when they change to what they feel you want to see, you're going to start to see a change in how people are treated, the cast and things like that. And it kind of goes to like when you think about corporate jobs, you're always going to have good managers. You're always going to have some not so good managers, right? How do we determine, how to hold people accountable? Because you're not going to be able to be there all the time. But when you hold people accountable and you say, hey, if this team isn't being treated right, I don't want to shop here. Or if you guys aren't valuing your employees or your team, I don't want to be a part of this organization. When we make those kind of moves, then you will start to see a change in the organization. Then you will start to see people change the way that they treat people. So the three concepts that I took from this: accountability looks different for everyone, because clearly everybody sees different ways and perspectives of how a person should be held accountable and for what they should be held accountable for. So that was interesting. The next thing, everything is not timeless. So when you are making these decisions to do things for your business, for your life, for your relationship, whatever it is, ask yourself, is this a timeless decision? Doesn't always mean that you're going to have the right answer. Sometimes we're just going to be wrong. But even considering it might help you with making a decision that aligns a little bit more with where you're trying to go. Now, the next thing, the last and final thing, which was the power of consumerism, the power of you being a consumer and a viewer. When you give your views, when you give your attention, when you give your comments, when you give your follows, when you give your shares to people, that is the most expensive thing. That it may not feel like it because they're so popular or because they have so many views, but your views are just as expensive as they would be if you were liking your friend's post, liking a stranger's post. So when we want to see better, we have to engage with better. When we don't like what we're seeing, we have to dismiss it and go and find content that is aligning with what we want to see and what we want to be a part of. Because what we subconsciously do, or not realizing what we do, is we bring so much attention and promotion to the things that we are claiming we don't like. When in reality, there's plenty of shows out here that are uplifting women. There's plenty of things out here that are probably going to align with every single thing that you're focused on, or most of the stuff that you're focused on. But are you sharing them? Are you talking about them? Are you promoting them? Are you watching them? Are you giving your views to that instead of giving your views to something that you really don't feel like you align with? That's the question we have to ask ourselves as consumers, because we do have the power. So before you think that you don't, before you think that, your views don't have anything to do with whether they do or don't start something, know that it does. Know that it always does. And it's not anything against America's Next Top Model, because I watched that show and there were some parts of the show that I really did enjoy and appreciate. But it's to say that when we see something that does not align and we want to hold people accountable, we can take action, and we are not powerless as consumers. America's Next Top Model is just an example, but there are plenty of businesses out there that have not truly shown that they care about making certain changes for their audience, and people will still keep shopping because they feel as if it doesn't matter, and if their opinion or their movement won't matter. But it does matter. You walking in that store, that matters. That's expensive to them. You wearing products that have someone else's logo on them, that's expensive. You watching someone's show or content, that's expensive. You sharing something, that's extremely expensive. These are all expensive things that you're doing. As a consumer, you are the prize. You are what everybody wants to have. Somebody watching, viewing, supporting, sharing, consuming what it is that they're trying to produce and provide. So once you realize that, you realize just how in charge you are when it comes to shows, when it comes to content, when it comes to things like that. You start demanding what you feel like you want to see, or don't demand anything. Just stop watching what you don't want to see, and you're going to see the changes happen, because the producers are going to have no choice but to change their approach. So that is my first, my biggest takeaway from this. And the last takeaway is simply that although it might feel good to point fingers at one person, because maybe that's somebody who's just easy not to be liked, honestly, if we're being honest, she already acknowledged that she felt like what she did was wrong. There's been podcasts. I think she wrote a book. I didn't read the book, but I did hear her on a podcast interview where she said she went too far. So this isn't a new conversation. This apology has already happened a while ago. We already acknowledged I went too far. Maybe because people are just now getting a hold of the replays. That's why they're feeling the demand for someone to come to them and repent, should we say, because at the end of the day, we cannot judge people. We can say what we feel like should have been changed or should have been, done differently, but everybody makes mistakes, and everybody starts off one place thinking that they know what they're doing and thinking that they're doing the best, to realize later on that they weren't doing the best and there were better ways to do what they were setting out to do. That's a lot of people. But there's just some people who do it publicly, and there's some people who do it privately. And this is what comes with doing it publicly. The public having their opinions on, who you are, your integrity, your character, and things like that, even if they weren't there for every single part of it. But at the end of the day, I love us holding people accountable for how they treat people and how people feel when they leave their spaces. It's also important to make sure that that accountability is spread out. Because one person, if she set out to do this show by herself, it would have been impossible to achieve. Well, let me not say impossible, but let me say it would be very hard to have achieved this production by herself. There was help. There were other people involved on this platform. And when we get into the habit of focusing on the face instead of the entire team and crew and production and brands, people don't feel like they're going to be held accountable. So they can kind of cruise in these moments where we all need to be holding ourselves accountable for understanding more about who it is we're endorsing, what we're endorsing, the conditions people are experiencing, and doing that extra research. There were brands that endorsed this show for multiple cycles, makeup brands. I haven't seen any videos about people saying that those makeup brands need to take accountability for, what they endorsed. Of course, they didn't work on the show. And of course, they probably, didn't have contestants that were on the show. But when you're endorsing something, don't you try to do research on it and make sure that this is legitimate? Or do we just go out and endorse? That's a lot of money to be endorsing, or a lot of products. We really got to do our research, and we have to check in enough. We have to care enough to want to know how these people are doing. We're going to be endorsing and spending our money on it. Then we need to do quality checks. How are you guys being treated? What's going on behind the scenes? Because if this is something I'm putting my name on, let me make sure that this is something that's uplifting or positive, or there's not things that we can tweak to make it even better. It's not their show, but if you're going to be endorsing or funding it, or putting your logo anywhere near it, or providing anything for it, yes, we may want to pay attention to those kind of things and look into that. That's not to shame, because again, we don't know things until we know them, right? But it's a learning opportunity for other entrepreneurs. For me, when you're working with people, do that deeper research to understand what they're about, how they treat their people. It also gives a great lesson on treating your people well as a leader, learning and understanding that. They talked about how during the time of the show, I think one of her friends ended up leaving the show, and he talked about his experience with that and feeling like there was distance. Sometimes understanding in leadership that things change and you have to try to find the right people to fill those gaps. So there's a lot of business lessons to be learned from listening and watching this story kind of play out, things that you can work on as you're growing your own brand. The importance of how you create a culture, that always resonates with me, because I worked in retail and environments where behind the scenes, it was a really stressful environment. It wasn't the most peaceful of places. And when you don't know any better, or you don't have a lot of help, you can feel like you're by yourself. So I can understand some people not speaking out. But overall, I want to leave with the message of understand how important your consumerism is. If you don't like something, don't watch it. If you don't endorse it, don't share it. If you don't support it, don't give it money. But when you view it, when you watch it, when you share it, when you promote it, when you post pictures of it, when you screenshot it, when you tag it, you are endorsing, you are supporting it in some way. Even if you're not trying to, you're supporting it, you're giving it, you're feeding it. If we don't feed those fires and we go and feed other fires that align with our values or are just right, or we feel are right, you're going to start to see more of those kind of fires build in a beautiful way, versus feeding things that we don't necessarily align with. And then accountability, that last thing, which is that one person did not make this production possible. There were multiple people. I've never seen anyone ask who was in charge of running or airing the show, and for how long were they in charge and running and airing the show. I haven't seen anybody ask that on social media. I keep seeing the same face over and over again, but that's not the only face that was involved in this. There were people who aired the show. There are people who endorsed the show. There are people who provided products and tools for the show. There are people who judged on the show. There are people who filmed the show. There were people who brought in extras on the show. There were people who came in as extras on the show. There was a lot of people a part of this experience that contributed to it in a positive light or in a negative light. So when we're talking about accountability, everybody makes a decision on whether or not they want to show up somewhere. Now, whether that's because they don't have experience, they didn't know what to do, we don't know that. And I'm not here to be the judge of that. I'm just here to say, let's pay attention to how powerful we are as individuals. Maybe some of those individuals felt powerless. I don't know. But maybe that's a part of the reason for why we don't see change in these kind of environments, because of the feeling of being powerless. But I want to leave with that message of you are powerful as a consumer. What you watch, what you eat, what you buy, how you spend, what you share, that is valuable to the people that you do it for. So if you're going to be sharing things, if you're going to be liking things, if you're going to be watching things, if you're going to be posting things, post stuff that aligns with your values at the core. Because if you do that, you're changing the algorithm, not only to send you stuff that is going to align with what you like, but you're also teaching these people who have these productions, who have these shows, that you're not interested in that as a consumer. You want something different. So that's going to be the solution. And I'm saying this now because there will be more TV shows. There will be more remakes. And when these things happen, how will you use your power as a consumer? Because it does matter and it does count. Thanks for watching. Those are my raw thoughts on it. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to share your opinions and your thoughts on it. Like I said, there were parts of the show that I really did enjoy, but hearing when anybody has a negative experience somewhere is not a positive thing. We all have areas for improvement where we can grow when it comes to leadership. So Hopefully that's what happens and take place, but I haven't watched the Netflix documentary yet. I just observed some things from the feedback that I've seen from people in my community or people posting on social media, just seeing so many conversations about it. And I wanted to come on and share my thoughts before the documentary. Now I may come back and share my thoughts after the documentary, but this was my thoughts on America's Next Top Model, not Next Flop. Flop was just to catch you, pull you guys in so we could have this dialogue. But have a wonderful night. I hope you enjoyed. Share your feedback, share your thoughts, and I might come back and do another one after I watch the Netflix documentary and tell everybody what I think. But y'all let me know in the comments if you like that. Have a good one. Bye-bye.